can see my screen, can't you?
Hmm.
You'd said to me that on the daily we need to get above this level. This is just another, another thing that
Make it bigger, like maximize it. It's just easier for me to see it.
yeah. So this, if I just do that,
That's okay. That's
I'm on
better.
this square blocky screen, aren't I? You're used to a cinema.
Well,
cinema.
I have your screen on my smaller normal screen above, and then I
Yeah.
have my trading view on my ultra wide on the bottom.
Ah, okay.
It just it's always better like if I can see as much information as possible.
Well, there's the daily BOS. So, like, if I just go
Mm-hmm.
and you said we need to get above that on the daily, and then I was
Mm-hmm.
made up because I did I marked this fib tool on the daily level, and I thought, oh look, it needs to get above that daily level. And then when I went down to the 4 hour after drawing that fib tool on the daily, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh look, that's exactly the point then, isn't it? That you were saying
Mm-hmm.
we need to get
Mm-hmm.
above that point, and then sure enough, is it battling with it? Because I want it to come down because I haven't bought anything, I haven't invested
Mm-hmm.
nothing, and I wanted to at a low price. And as the
Mm-hmm.
price is going up, I'm like, oh no, I missed the 15 buying
Yeah, that's
opportunity.
FOMO. That's
It
FOMO.
is FOMO. And, you know, and I'll stop sharing. So I thought,
Oh, you're good. You're good.
you obviously, have got this down, and I trust you implicitly. And
Yeah, I
can
mean,
I just say,
I have a
if it
reasonable
does,
understanding, you know.
yeah, and I want to say, if it does go up from here,
Hmm.
that's fine too. I mean, buying in at 30,000, that's a good price anyway. Even if
Yeah.
I was thinking I might buy in at 26 or 27 if we do break above that level.
Well, check with me before you do any kind of thing like that because, like, can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's like look at like the monthly. Okay, so I'm on BTC USDT, the perpetual chart for Bybit. Now, if we look at the monthly, um, like this is a high there, right? Sorry, I'm trying to get used to this kind of new layout. Like that is a high there. Let me do it this way. All right, so like that's a high there. I don't know if I would call this a monthly high. It kind of is. Let's see, let's check from there to there. That's 52%. And then from there to there. Yeah, yeah, I would, yeah, and you have, more than two candles or two or more candles going down, and then you have two candles in succession, um, going up in accumulation. So yeah, I would consider this a monthly high, a monthly low, and then a new monthly high right here. And I would not consider this the yeah, I would let me think. I'm sorry, just give me a second. Um let me just walk through this in my head real quick. All right, so this, then we had that. So that broke it, that was a high. That. Okay, so yeah, so I wouldn't I wouldn't really call this I wouldn't even really call this a monthly breakup structure level, not a relevant one, you know what I mean? Because if you look at this move up, the only time you had hold on, just I'm sorry, just bear with me. I'm just trying to catch up. Like I said, I haven't been charting an awful lot, so I'm just trying to catch up on the fly. So that would be the low, then that's the high. And then, okay, so yeah, okay, so yes, I would. So I would consider like this the high here. And let me change this where I have my arrow on it. Where's it at? Oh, there we go. Oh, wrong one. Okay. Okay. So I would consider this the high, even though it didn't like, because this was the high here, right? And then the low was, somewhere way down like here. You know what I mean? Like below that, you have to go on a different chart. Well, it had its pullback here, but it never took out this low, right? Um, on a monthly, I kind of changed like my kind of thinking a little bit, because especially when it's like the start of a bull run, like it's going up a massive amount, obviously, you know what I mean? Like that whole move is like over 1,000%. So, you know, on a yearly, yeah, I would say that, that would just be one run up. But on this one, I would consider this a low here. So we'd have this as the high, and then this will be the low. Now at that point, let me erase that. Okay, back. Delete that. Okay. So we had this high, and then we had this low. This high was never taken out right here. You see, like it wicked it, but it never closed above it. And then that's when, the AKA like the bear market started. So this would have been our low that got us there, right? But on a monthly, being such a high time frame, I would kind of treat it a little different. I would just kind of look for the last visible like highs and lows, and do you understand what I'm saying? Like versus going from the previous low and the previous high. This one was never closed above, so technically this is still the high, and whatever's down here is technically still the low by the rule set, which like I typically follow, right?
Yeah, I see what you mean, because it's not
However,
the
because
candle,
it's
only the wick, isn't it?
yeah, well, it's not that, it's this was such a massive move up. Like this was literally, when the bull run started, this whole move. So you kind of have to, once that kind of starts, you kind of have to start like a new, it's like a clean slate from that point, like this low down here, whatever one it is, is very important, obviously. But if you want to kind of look more short term, relative to the monthly time frame, and you see a visible like pullback, right? Like, I mean, like I said, you have at least two or more candles in succession, opposite to the trend that you were creating, and then you have you have two or more candles in succession, and opposite of this trend, right? Now, because this one wasn't closed above, when this low, it's one of these two, is probably just, I would just call it that one, maybe. When this one was closed through, and you can see like it wicked it there, and then it had a really big, pullback. Like that's a decent percent there. Like when it, from there to there is, 20% pullback. Once that monthly candle closed through that, this, I would say this, I'd say the low is still in question actually, on the monthly. Um, I wouldn't call this a low and a high of the monthly. I wouldn't. So I think personally that like you have two kind of monthly, let me get one with the arrow on it just for there. So I would say you kind of have two monthly highs that are really important. These are all different time frame highs, and I don't think that you have started an uptrend on the monthly. Now, if we close this one, um, above or where it's at now, and then we create another one and we close above that one, and we have two accumulation candles, then I would say like, yeah, okay, we're starting an uptrend, right? So the monthly is still in question. So now let's go down to the weekly, because this is kind of, as we go down in time frames when we're looking for, what it's really doing, like right now, like obviously they get more important towards the middle of the time frame scale, and then they get less important as you go lower and lower. um, I know that's kind of like seems confusing. Like high time frames are always most important, but it's really, in my opinion, it's the middle ones, like the
I,
the
I
the
understand what you
4
mean.
hour and the daily are, to me, like those are key,
It's like relevance, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have this. We just got to adjust it for fractal nature. So on the weekly, I would say I don't normally mark like a weekly break of structure, but let me just look at it and I'll just see what they are real quick. That, let me call that, so that's that. Yeah, so on these higher time frames, really what I look for is the, you have two or more candles in succession, and then if you have two or more opposite to that, I would call that a high, and I call this a low. Okay. So this was a high, and then yeah, I would call like this a high and this a low. Okay, so that was broke. So this becomes the low here. And it comes up, it comes up, it comes up. All right, that's where it ended. And then once that was broken, this became the new weekly low. And then the new weekly high is here. So let's pop a line on it there. Let me get rid of these guys here. All right, so at this point, this would have been like back in the past, this would have been the low, this would have been the high. It didn't close above it and was above it, and like look, it was bouncing on it. So this was definitely like the weekly in here, right? And then finally, like it closed above it here. So once that happened, this would have become my new high here. But before I move my high, remember, I'm going to adjust my low to the lowest point in between here and the new high. So that would be, it's essentially the same thing, but it's going to be there. And let me just move that down there for now. And then I'll move my high to the highest point. So, yes, and this is a good point to make, is like, yes, it made a new high, and that signifies with the highest probability that it's going to continue its uptrends. But that's not like a hard and set rule. Like it can't be, right? Because then it would just be in a perpetual up or downtrend. So there has to be a point in time to where that fails, and this was that, right? So and there's other time frames that would have shown you that for instance, like the daily would have shown you that like clearly. So at that point, like this was the high, this was the low, and then you can see here like it was fighting that low. It was sweeping below it. It grabbed all the liquidity from here, here. It grabbed it there, and when that like next candle didn't make a new high, that was just further confirmation that this thing was going downsies, you know. And it bounced off of it, tried to wick it again, you know, and it's just fighting right there. And then it didn't create two accumulation candles, so it didn't even create you know, a new high at this point. This is just all one move down, and then you can just see it just like falls off the map. Now when this candle here closed below this low, now we got to wait for this move down to end, you know, and it ends when we see two accumulation candles going in the opposing direction of that trend, which is here. So at that point, the high is going to stay the same because we just changed trend. So at that point, this will become our new low. And we quickly close below that, right? Now, once we close below this becomes our new let me see. So we close with that. Yeah. So this right here becomes our new weekly high, and this becomes our new weekly low. All right. So on a weekly, I can erase some of these lines to make it a little less confusing. That one can go. And that was a good level right there. That one can go. That one can go. Okay. And yeah, this one was important too for another reason. Okay. So we'll get rid of that. Make it a little bit less, you know, kind of confusing. So at this point, we have the weekly low is here, the weekly high is here, and we're in a downtrend because the low is in front of the high. So like if we do what I like to do with the fib tool and we, you know, pull it between the two, these become like really important spots. And if you look right here, you see the EQ, and this is obviously not exact, but it's pretty close, right? If you look right there, like that's like that candle, like it bounced off of that, which that's a good sign. So it broke over the EQ and then it kind of bounced on it and it's going up. But we'll talk about the daily in a second, but it's fighting that, you know, right now, which also coincides with the 75% mark. So it's not closing above that. So you got to think about like these, you know, these points here, the 0, the 25, the 50, the 75, and then the 100. Like these are the battles like that it has to win on every time frame to kind of win the war of that time frame, you know, so to speak. And that's what it's doing right now. So the weekly, it's oftentimes easy to see like the correlation between like one time frame and the one above it and the one below it, with using the fib tool in this like quarterly increment type of way that I like to do. So let me get rid of this. I'll just leave it there for now. So it's got to overcome this to change trend on the weekly. Now, if we come up here and we close above this, then I'm like, yeah, this is like, I feel like it's on, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, you know, we're starting to move up like longer term. However, look at this move up. Like there's so much inefficiency in here. Um, and nothing goes up forever, nothing goes down forever. So I'm trying to look. We are time. Oh, we got 2 minutes. Okay. It's gonna have a pullback 100%. Like it's going to. I mean, in my opinion, like it doesn't mean that it has to happen now, but I'm pretty confident it's going to. Um, and it'll likely come back down to here. I mean, I would say it'll depend on where it eventually, like where it stops. If it stops here, I would say if like that is indeed the high, like I would say it's going to come back somewhere around here. It's really likely that it'll come back right around here, you know. But it's going to come back somewhere in here, uh, in my opinion. But like I said, if it closes above this long term, like a macro outlook, that's a really good sign. So let's go to the daily and kind of look at that. And you can see clearly on the daily, like look at you have that daily break of structure, and like, I mean, I'll zoom real in. Look at that. It's like it's wicking it, but it is not closing above it. Like it hits
It's
it
trying,
there.
isn't it? It's really
Yeah, it
trying.
it hits it there, and then it comes up and it kind of sweeps liquidity from here. People were shorting this. I mean, because that was, I mean, that would have been a decent little short. I mean, if you're, like an intraday trade or whatever, almost 2%. Like, yeah, I really don't think that this thing is going up from here. Like, I'm pretty confident that it's going to come back down. I mean, it almost has to, like you're gonna like the reason it went up so much here is because it went down so fast here, and looking at like the weekly, like, you can see like it just dumps right there. Now, the fact that it did close above this, that is significant. But keeping in mind today is Sunday, this candle has not even closed above this yet. So I think tonight is going to be really important, you know. Um, Go back to the daily, and I mean, man, to me, I feel like it's going to do something like this, just
I
for
mean,
like
at the time of this
starters.
recording, anyway, this distribution candle I'm looking at on the daily, it's only like
Mm-hmm.
3 hours and 15 minutes to go. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just hoping it's
Yeah.
going to break below that level.
Yeah. Yeah. Close below this. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to. And then it just created like, a lot of liquidity if it does indeed go down, which I think it will. Like it just created a lot of liquidity between this point and oops, and this new high right here. Like there's a lot of like liquidity in here, um which it could come like okay, so this is what I think that'll happen. I'm trying to, God, I hate that paintbrush. Sometimes it's really annoying because you can't like grab your chart and move around without it like doing a brush stroke. I think personally what'll happen if it does not close today's candle above this daily break of structure, I think that it's going to essentially do something like this. It's going to come, oops, it's going to come down. I'll use this little path as more accurate. I think it'll come down and then it'll bounce somewhere in here, and then it'll come and it'll bounce somewhere like that, and then it'll come here and then like that, and it may do this kind of number for a little bit, and then it'll lose that, and then it'll come down in here, probably bounce here, come up, range, and then boom, lose that, and then ultimately come to here. Um, Trying to predict anything more than that, is like that's kind of difficult to do. I could speculate, but it's not gonna be like, accurate, so to speak. I can tell you points that it will probably go down to, but I think that that's essentially something like it's going to do. Now, it could also, because of how fast it went up, it could very well. Let me see. I can't find it, but it's okay. So let me just get rid of that. So that's one scenario, right? That I think could very well happen. And these scenarios are obviously, like I said, if this daily and weekly candle closes below this line, it becomes pretty likely that one of these is going to happen or something close to it. The other one is that it just, kind of comes down and it has a little bounce here and then hits this and then just like has these little bounces like that, like that, like that, like that. And then, it'll come down in this area because there's a lot of orders in here, so this is going to be a little fight. I don't see it just like plummeting through all of this. Now ultimately I think it will go lower than all of this, at minimally, like it'll sweep it all, in my opinion. But it's gonna have like a fight somewhere in here, and that's where it's gonna kind of consolidate and for keep sweeping itself, and that battle is gonna ensue. Oops. um Something like that. Let me do that one, and then it'll kind of lose those and then come back up, and then it'll have another little battle in here, and then a lot will be determined down at this level at that point. So it's perfectly reasonable to say that this will happen, and then it comes down here and consolidates down here, and then comes back up and takes this out, and like, yay, bull run! It ensues. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to think that it could do. When I look at the monthly, though, let me get rid of my fib tool here. When I look at the monthly, there's no, there's not even two accumulation candles, that are opposite to trend. There was here, but I mean, they were lost like almost immediately, I mean, I still think, man, I really, I feel like we're coming somewhere like around like this area here, like I said, I've kind of been banking on this level, that one, or like this one right in here.
Yeah.
That's kind of my expectation. And if I get rid of that, so if like I do like another diagram on the monthly, I would say essentially it's going to do all this jazz in there, right? And then it's going to do that and then come down. And then this is where I think we'll find our bottom, and it'll just consolidate in here for a while. So on this time frame, that's what I think.